You can fold them, stack the deck, and weigh the dice. All that glitters isn't golden. Cash that check, you'll pay the price. Might be safer in the desert, only dust to judge your sins. But those who wager aren't so clever, 'cause in heaven, well, the house always wins. The house always wins. House always wins. House always wins.
So to understand where we're going, we need to understand where it is we have been. That is probably the most important thing that any man can learn in his entire life, is to understand that nothing happens without a prior action. So with that, I'm going to give you my predictions for 2021 and explain how it is we got here. Okay, first thing I want to predict is that these wars in the Middle East will be expanded, and there will be more military, how do I put this, intervention into a lot of countries that we thought we were done with, like Syria and Libya and all these places. Also, on top of that, I think that there will be more action to try and surround Turkey and Russia. Now, this action here, I think, will backfire by the end of the year. People are not going to like it, and the left wing and the right wing are going to scream out in unison against this. It's going to be something that everybody is going to be pissed off about. And they may end up finding that they don't have enough soldiers to perform these actions, and they may end up actually like bringing back in a lot of contractors and things of this nature. Now, in order to have more conflicts in the Middle East, what they're going to need to do first is stand here and destroy production of U.S. oil. All right, national oil, things of this nature, local oil. And so they're going to try and close down a lot of the fracking fields and make things far more expensive and far more harder for as far as regulations and things of this nature are concerned. This is actually the reason. It literally has nothing to do with, any of the actual EPA like stuff or any type of real environmental problems. They're going to try and close down U.S. sources of oil because, well, let's be honest here. They want us to be involved inside of the Middle East. And if we're not, then, we have no reason to actually go elsewhere. And everybody fully understands this fact. And it's something that people are going to take advantage of in the midterm and the next coming elections. Now, with the advent of us standing here destroying, national production of oil, or, the normal production of oil that we already have right now through our fracking fields, which has actually made us the largest exporter of oil in the world at this point, it is going to stand here and force us to come in direct conflict with the Chinese, who have become accustomed to not paying a premium on oil anymore. It used to be when the U.S., probably about 7-8 years ago, when the U.S. didn't have as much oil production and, the cost of fracking was over $70 a barrel. It was much more expensive to, much cheaper to actually get it out of Saudi Arabia. But today, with the way we're moving at the moment, we're going to find that, China is going to have to go back to paying a premium because the U.S. is going to demand the oil due to the fact that we enforce the trade routes. So with that being said, I think that it may end up causing a major issue between Saudi Arabia and India, who is actually the individuals who are really the arbiters of the Persian Gulf oil supply, because, they sit right there at the end of it. So, the United States may end up backing India in a much larger capacity in its ground war and border skirmishes that it has with China. Okay, so also to add to that, immigration will be increased by exponential amounts. Now, the reason why they want to increase the number of immigrants in the United States isn't the fact that they want to destroy the local population as far as, the browning of our country or whatever the case might be that they put in so that they can feel good as white folks. It's actually really about corporate power as far as things are concerned. The more immigrants you bring into the country, the lower the labor cost is. And as you drive down labor costs, as we've seen in, articles recently, they want to hand out H-2B visas to these individuals and grant them amnesty so that they don't have to worry about being arrested and they can continue to pay them dog shit wages that Americans won't accept because of the fact that Americans have come accustomed to a certain standard of living. This is something that has already begun and something that is already said will be done. With that, being said, brings me to my next point. There will be a massive expansion of welfare benefits inside of the United States. And the reason is because of the fact that they're going to drive down labor to the point where individuals aren't going to be able to afford basic goods and services. When you put Americans out of work, they don't really have any choice. Either you hand them welfare or they're going to go and burn down your fucking house. It's that simple, right? Like my man Mark Blights has always said, the people will come for you. It's that simple, you know what I mean? He said the Hamptons are not a defensible position. It's a low-lying area. It's that basic. So with that being said, I want you to understand. I want y'all to understand out there. This is coming. And the devaluation of the currency is also going to come with it. Which brings me to my next point. Eventually, all this inflation is going to catch up. There's nothing they can do to stop it. And so with that, we're going to end up seeing a massive commodities increase. It's just a fact of life. You cannot have, once the economy starts ramping up in demand for things like aluminum and steel and, all these type of things, end up coming back to where they're supposed to be, you're going to see the price of commodities jump through the fucking roof. It's gonna, if y'all thought 2007, 2008, 2009 was bad, man, listen, y'all ain't seen nothing yet. Legit. I remember when it was £10 or $10 100 for, steel. We might see 20 or 30 at this point with the amount of money that they printed off for this coronavirus nonsense and the lack of production there to back it up. So with that being said, expect a massive bump in all commodities, including things like oil and everything else. So, if y'all were smart, I would be buying heating oil right now from my house, and as much of it you can store in the background if you have heating oil, if you run on diesel in your truck, whatever the case might be, try to buy as much now because legit it's going to jump exponentially this year. Okay, so with the jump in commodities, on top of that, they're talking about rolling back and actually halting before court even hears a case of Trump's executive orders on trying to get the price of prescription medications back down again. His First Nation plan, U.S. First Nation plan that he had for all these pharmaceuticals that was supposed to come in 2021. Well, they're stopping that. Right. And it's not going to go until January 14th at minimum. So with that being said, they're going to end up swearing in Joe Biden, and he's going to get rid of that executive order and allow pharmaceutical companies to price whatever they want. They're talking about at a minimum a 10% jump in all prescription medications, no matter what it is, just to begin with. Right. And then once the inflation starts actually really hitting where it needs to hit at, you can probably expect a whole lot more. So with that being said, that brings me to my next point. Medicare and Social Security. Okay, so with the exponential jump of the amount of cost for prescription medications for, the elderly and things of this nature, and having a massive portion of our baby boomer population either retired or retiring over, these next few years, basically the bulk of them are all going to be retired by the time of 2025. This is probably going to tax the infrastructure and economy of this country to the point where we're not real sure where it's going to go. They may end up just printing money to pay for the difference, and it's going to cause more inflation. It's just, legit. It's inflation nation at this point, man. Legit. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen, but understand the cost of Medicare for our government is going to go up this year by quite a bit, just because of the jump in prescription medication prices and, the amount of baby boomers that are going to be retiring. Okay, so with that being said, expect to have an actual third party in the 2022 elections, right? It's going to happen. There might even be a third and a fourth party at that point. because people are going to fully be aware and fully be awake to the fact that they are completely fucked and there's nothing they can do about it. And they're going to be highly pissed off by the Democrats and Republicans far beyond what the normal ideology is. Like, real shit. Like, I know we usually hate Congress and they usually have like a 10% approval rating or whatever the case might be. This is probably going to piss people off to the point where they're just going to start forming their own parties and doing their own things. We are going to see a separation. And, the left and the right of, the Democrats and the Republican Party, probably the populist right and individuals who are anti-war, the libertarians and things of this nature, are going to split off and form their own parties. Not the Libertarian Party, though, because nobody's interested in voting for those worthless fucks. Now would be a great time to start the Leave Me Alone party. Anybody have any idea how to, operate inside a political sphere? Holla at me, because legit, I think we need to start this party and get some candidates rolling at this point. Anyway, let's keep going. So why is it that I say all these predictions? Well, first things first, what we have to understand is how we got to where we are and where we are right now. Well, it all kind of begins in Bretton Woods in 1944, where they passed what was known as the Bretton Woods Agreement. Now, the Bretton Woods Agreement was an agreement that basically what they did is they agreed that the United States would hold a reserve currency, and on top of that, they passed things like the International Monetary Fund, and began all these processes of being able to have the whole world working together to fight against the USSR, right? But the reason why it actually happened was because of what's known as the Atlantic Charter, right? Which means that it's a charter that actually says that everybody has the right to the seas. Basically, it's a bribe from the United States saying, look, we have the world's greatest navy, okay, and we will float it and protect any goods that you want to have and trade anywhere you want to go, no matter when, no matter how, and we will meet communism at any time and fight that battle. But you guys on Europe and, around the Russian, sphere, as far as things are concerned, you have to stand in front of us and help us fight. Well, this system lasted throughout the Cold War, which I don't know if you remember the Cold War. You probably remember this. Right. And, what happened is that, in 1990, the United Soviet States of United Soviet States of Russia fell apart, right? And the Berlin Wall came down, which was a wall that actually separated East and West Germany. And East Germany was the part of Germany that belonged to Russia. And Russia actually expanded those borders to that point so that they would have a smaller border to be able to defend, and the opportunity to see problems coming. Because they usually, everybody who invaded them before, like Napoleon and things of this nature, they would invaded through things like Poland and Scandinavia and, Switzerland, all the stuff, right? And so, Russia expanded out to the point where, they had decent borders to be able to defend and an opportunity to be able to stop any new advances into their country, especially after Germany came in and it took 20 million Russians dying to be able to stop the Nazi advance. So, with that being said, okay, ever since then, since the 1940s, we have been in this order where, the United States basically pays for the entire world's defense, and we act as the world police. Well, this made sense when, the Soviets were a problem. When everybody was worried, because the Soviets had 4,000 nuclear warheads aimed at the United States, and the United States had another 3,500 looking back at them, and we were going back and forth with the space race and, arms races and all these type of things, and capitalism versus communism, and it was a crazy ass part of the world, right? And, kids in the United States had drills where they had to get underneath of their fucking desks and shit, for air raids and nuclear bombs, as if that little rickety wooden desk would protect you from the goddamn Soviets bombing the fucking state that you were in. Apparently wooden desks soak up nuclear fallout, but whatever. Now, with that being said, okay, this is important to understand all of this, to understand the history of how we got here. In 1990, we never adjusted, right? But the rest of the world did. Because in 92, we went into Iraq after, to make sure that like Iraq oil and stuff continued to flow into the, Persian Gulf. And we had the opportunity to everybody have the opportunity to have the oil that they needed. And a bunch of countries didn't come. And then in 2001, we got bombed and most of the countries didn't come. Now, see, for us continuing to defend their trade routes and uphold NATO and pay for everything and, be the individuals who are, making sure that they don't end up getting swallowed up by, a giant Russian machine still to this day, right? Because like Russia still wants to, grab all those countries again because they don't have the military to be able to continue to live to be able to, guard their border the way they need to. Understand that 1 in 10 Russian moms has AIDS, something like 2% of their population has HIV, some ridiculous amounts, like 10% of their population is hooked on heroin. Like, these are things that people have no idea about, right? So Russia has to make a move because they haven't had a properly trained military since 1990 when the Berlin Wall fell. So the last of the generals are here soon retiring that were actually trained properly in how to conduct military warfare. Now, with all that, okay, this is how I start making these predictions, because Donald Trump came in and basically destroyed the last of what was left with the world order. Like, the United States in 1970 ran out of oil. Okay, this is something that a lot of people don't know. We ran out of oil in 1970 in the United States, and we started importing most of our oil from the Middle East. And so began our journey into the Middle East, in 1980s. In the 1980s, 1985, it was Afghanistan. In 92, it was Iraq. In 91, it was Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Sudan, right? Basically any place that had oil, to make sure that they continued to use the petrodollar. In 1972, Richard Nixon set up the petrodollar in order to, because we had the Bretton Woods agreement, and he stood there and took us off of it because of the fact that France and West Germany and Italy all called in their dollars, right, and said, look, we want to exchange these for the gold at the gold rate of $35 per ounce. And the United States said, fuck you, we don't have that money, because we had been fighting, the Korean War and Vietnam and things of this nature. And so we went off the gold standard, went on to the petrodollar, and the petrodollar kind of died in the early 2000s, and we've really been on a super floating currency ever after that. And now we're at the point where we no longer need Saudi Arabian oil, right? We don't use we don't really export anything to any country. We have, a global military and a continental economy, right? Only 6% of our economy is tied to trade, right? So with that, where does that leave us? Right? The United States doesn't need the rest of the world. We can interact with them, but we don't really trade anything with them. We don't export shit. You know what I mean? Again, 6% of our exports. And, half of that is Mexico and Canada. So we don't really need the rest of the world. We really don't. What we need is to be able to be left alone. But the problem is, right, is that the vast majority of our consumer goods are built in China or someplace in, Asia, things of this nature. And we import all of that. But the thing is that the United States citizens kind of been stripped out. And what they've been doing is they've been bringing in immigrants to replace the fucking labor of the United States citizens to drive down the fucking wages. So that labor doesn't get its share of, the opportunity to, the share of production. The productive value, the production has gone up in the United States exponentially, but the workers haven't seen a wage increase since the 1970s. Well, why is this, right? It's because of the fact that they continue to bring in immigrant labor. This is something that Trump was actually also addressing, and it's something that Joe Biden wants to reverse and go back to, because Joe Biden is a corporate candidate. So with knowing that Joe Biden isn't a leftist, all right, Joe Biden is part of the fucking liberal order, all right? He's part of he's a neoliberalist. And with that, you have to understand that he wants to go back to how it was in the 90s and 2000s, under George Bush and Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. But the thing is it doesn't make any sense anymore, right? It's not logical, right? And so when he does the things that he's going to do anyway, like, I'm just going to tell you what my predictions are as far as what he's going to do, because like, I know what liberalism needs. Right? It needs conflict. It's going to have war, because that U.S. war machine has to be involved in the rest of the world in order for us to continue to have the reason to be able to continue to stand here and defend trade. It's that simple, right? We have to be doing trade with the rest. We have to be bringing goods in from the rest of the world and absorbing the rest of the world's production. And, exporting our currency is basically all we're doing, exporting the wealth of our country, which we don't need to do anymore. We also don't need the immigrants. The problem isn't the fact that Americans don't want to do the jobs, which is the line that you always hear from people out in like California and these fucking suburbanite yuppie cocksuckers who, honest to God, I think anybody who ever says the word Americans don't want to do those jobs should be thrown off a goddamn fucking cliff. All right? The problem is that you don't want to pay Americans enough to do those jobs. That's the issue. The issue is you've driven up the cost of living to the point where individuals can no longer survive on those type of fucking wages that they get from those jobs. That's the issue. It's not the fact that everybody wants some cushy fucking office job where they sit in the air conditioning all day, right? It's the fact that individuals don't want to do it for nothing. Right? If you were going to go make $10 an hour to pick fucking strawberries all day, and be out in the goddamn woods and you're out in the fucking fields and have ticks and fleas and, other insects biting you and things of this nature, you would end up standing here going, yo, look, I want more fucking money for my labor. I want more money for my time. Because what can you afford at $10 an hour? But maybe share rent with somebody in a 1-bedroom apartment. At $400 a week, a quarter of your income is supposed to be spent on, your residence. So this is how I came up with these predictions. All right. And this is how I came up with this mentality. It's, I hope, I'm not hoping for any of this stuff to happen, but I think it will, and I think this is the way things are going to go. I know Trump's not going to win, and I don't give a fuck what type of bullshit fucking dog and pony show Congress and the Senate's going to try and put on for us. I know the truth. They stole an election from us, and it ain't going to happen again. And they know it won't, because next time we will make sure that, they will pay for what they did. And they're going to pay, coming up here soon anyway, because they're all going to get thrown out. And we're going to end up with fucking communism. And remember, under communism, liberals get the needle first. Anyway, look, I'm Tom Peace from Pnoid News. You enjoy this content, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Make sure you hit that sub button, hit the notification bell, man. Listen, I got, 2,500 subs and I get 300 views on the video. It's fucking awful, but it is what it is. Anyway, look, you know the deal. Peace be like one. Enjoy. Happy New Year. Later.
Hit them, you can fold them, stack the deck and weigh the dice. All that glitters isn't golden. Cash that check, you'll pay the price. Might be safer in the desert, only dust to judge your sins. But those who wager aren't so clever, 'cause in heaven, well, the house always wins. The house always wins. House always wins. House always wins.